Good evening, guys, and a happy 4th of July. Is that not allowed to be said anymore? I don't know. But nonetheless, happy 4th of July to each and every one of you, whether you like the holiday or not. This has often been my favorite holiday since I was young. Uh, I just came back from, something that was actually very important to me in my childhood. And, I'm not sure how many of you still get to experience this, but I live in a very conservative part of America now, and I just went to a small town parade. And a lot of the things that I would see that was a lot more commonplace when I was growing up, the county fair, that type of thing, that is not anywhere near as commonplace as it once was. So just to see the families, the kids having a good time and experiencing what they see as the American tradition, the tradition that is, for the most part, welcoming, but it is small town America. It's not for everybody. And it is very white, obviously. But these are all, regular, well-to-do people that really don't want for much in life. They just want basic things. And whether they recognize why the system is eroding itself underneath its feet. I was in a car ride with some friends that I had just made, and listening to them speak, listening to their perspective on conservative politics. It's very interesting. Some of it I agree with, obviously some of it I don't. But I think it's always important to hear that perspective. I think it is important to hear the things that is important to them. The only thing that they really said over the course of their conversation that I really didn't agree with was one of them started dissing on Code Pink. And I was like, all right, I'm not down with that. That's not one you're going to get me to agree on. And I would definitely say that for those who are, again, I see what Ellie's saying. I see what others are saying, used to love this holiday. This holiday used to mean something. I don't know how many people we're going to get tonight. We'll see. Obviously, this is a special. This is the 4th of July. So a lot of people are with their families, having a good time, as they should. But the show goes on, as I like to say. I did my thing, and right now I can hear the fireworks going off in the back. I don't know where in the country everybody is. I don't know if it's, too late or not. Yeah, we definitely don't do Medea hate. But a lot of times people just feel that it really just comes down to, thank you, left-wing nationalist, and a happy 4th to you all as well. Yeah, the country used to be somewhat different, but it was always a sliding scale. It was always a question of how long it was going to take for us to get to where we are now. And one of the things that we were talking about in the car was how this country does not embrace the 4th of July anymore. In small town America, in places like where I was tonight, it still means something. It still is of value. People do care about this. And I'm not going to lie. It's the only shirt that I have that has the American flag on it, but it is the 4th flag. And I guess for many of us, we just long for a time where the country actually had something to look forward to. We saw this country as not where it needed to be, but where it could be. And I think that that's what it was like, particularly in the 80s and the 90s. And for the past generation plus, things have turned in a very dark direction, to say the least. We are not heading anywhere near where we want to go. And that is something that we cannot ignore. I think that that is also something that is true. I think that we live in a country where we don't fully understand exactly why things have been as difficult to comprehend as they have been. There is a side of our country that we tend to forget. And for a while, I think it is fair to say that things were not nearly as bad for most people as they are now. So now you're faced with the reality that you cannot ignore how far this country has fallen, how much more difficult it is for everyday people to survive. And what does the 4th of July really mean now? This is the moment where we kind of have to reflect and recognize just how far we've fallen as a nation. That is incumbent upon us. we as Americans have a duty to either recognize the petty differences that we have are either going to be what we set aside to rise above, or it will be the death of us because we can't get out of our own way. We cannot just be focused on the realities of what Israel means, what Ukraine means, what China means, what Russia means, all of these elements that fill our daily lives, especially since our channel is very heavily focused on foreign policy. But here at home, as Americans, we cannot and must not ignore the realities that we think somehow, some way, we're either going to vote our way out of this, we are just going to convert as many people as we can, in more ways than one, into believing that this ideology is plausible. I mean, I met a gentleman tonight who's very nice. He runs a farm. He has 8 kids. 8! They're all sweet, very nice, young. But that way of living, it's almost like finding somebody in the wild. It's very foreign. It's not what it used to be. It's sort of a throwback. And they're all homeschooled. In part, probably because it's hard to pay for a lot of things these days. But as I said, the perspective is very interesting to hear. And I think it is only fair because we've been giving him a lot of credit, and he deserves it because he's been doing a lot of good, whether you like his political ideology or not. Zohran Mamdani, as New York City's mayor, is definitely the leader of the left populist movement in this country right now. And here's what he had to say regarding the 4th of July.
Told that America is exceptional because we are richer, stronger, more powerful than everyone else. The truth, my friends, is that America is exceptional because here, nothing is fixed into place. The frontier may be closed, we may have walked on the moon, but the work of fulfilling the values first enshrined in the Declaration of Independence, that work endures, and it belongs to us all. It belongs too to our newest Americans, those standing here with me today, all of whom were recently naturalized. Nearly a decade ago, I too felt what you feel, the joy of no longer being just a New Yorker, but an American too. You each hold a special power, the power to determine what America means. The powerful have always known their answer. America, in their view, is an arena of supremacy, where only a select few are allowed freedom, where not all are created equal. America, if you ask them, becomes less the more people it welcomes.
Look, I understand, and rightfully so, that a lot of people have their skepticisms about Zohran, and you should. Being skeptical of people in power is a prerequisite to being a free-thinking American. He's done a decent amount of good so far. But you always have to hold our elected officials' feet to the fire. As I said, to anybody who wonders what makes Zohran unique in this moment, what truly makes him unique is that he has canceled the city contracts. I don't know how many he's canceled, but I know he's canceled quite a few between New York City and Tel Aviv. And that in itself is a monumental change, a revolutionary type change that can't be quantified in just in words. It's fundamentally changing New York. New York, in the last 6 months, also has the lowest crime rate on record. So he's doing something right. I'm not going to say he's doing everything right. And he's not my cup of tea on everything for sure. However, got to call spade a spade. He's doing a good job. And I understand why he's saying this.
America, they will tell you, belongs only to those with the right accent or the right shade of skin. The rest of us, they insist, should be grateful for merely being allowed to visit. How small they are, how weak, how unoriginal. At every moment in our past, those who led through exclusion and isolation have tried to win power and enrich themselves by turning us against one another. Division is the oldest trick in politics and the cheapest. But time and again, including 250 years ago, those forces of division have been vanquished by the forces of progress.
Now, apparently, a lot of conservatives had their arms up in the air, going ballistic over what he just said. I don't think there's anything, to be honest, I don't even think he really said that much. I think he, he tempered his comments or to a level where he's trying to acknowledge the fact that this country has a lot of things that it could be proud of, but there's a lot of things that it shouldn't be proud of. That we are not this benevolent nation. And we're not. But remember the uniqueness of this moment that we're in right now. This is the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence and the day we declared ourselves independent of England. And why is that so unique? Because history has shown that most political systems throughout history, they have a shelf life. The typical shelf life is 200 to 250 years, and we are there now. And boy, oh boy, does it seem like we're past our expiration date. I think most people would agree with that. That the inevitable change that is coming, who knows what it's going to look like. But I do believe that there will come a time, one day, where we will have to recognize the significance in so many ways to having somebody like Zohran in a position of power. He's changing a narrative at a time where it's desperately needed. Desperately needed. Because the trajectory that our country has been going on for far too long is a trajectory that is damning in so many respects. And we are in a lot of trouble. Whether you want to call it fascism, authoritarianism, everything that is happening in our nation right now can be traced to the fact that the rule of law no longer exists. How do you trust anything that you see? You can't. The land of the free, home of the brave? How is that possible when everything that we've been explaining, everything that we've been talking about from the hills, talking about the corruption, the sheer corruption that is our broken economic and political system, it comes to the forefront when we said for so long that eventually, if we did not deal with the true cracks within the system, for example, trading on inside information every day, making people filthy rich, government contracts that are undeserving, proof of concept notwithstanding. That's why we said Elon is not a trillionaire. He's a government whore who happens to be rich as a result, but he ain't no trillionaire. He's just on paper. The richest person, as far as I'm concerned, is probably still Warren Buffett, because most of his money's in real estate. He owns tangible assets. But so much of what we see now is not tangible. It's not real. It's just made up. And this is what the President of the United States is talking about on the eve of our 250th anniversary.
Away from my kids, because every time my kids do, if they invest in a stock or if they go and do a bill, anything they do, because the presidency is so powerful, so big, everything, right. If they buy a cupcake company, well, the energy to make the cupcakes is, sort of like, how's my energy policy? So therefore you have a conflict. Almost anything they do, if they want to buy a truck, if they want to.
Isn't it just so telling that the president, the first thing he thinks of is, well, of all the companies that I could think of that we could talk about, let's talk about cupcakes, because I'm in the mood for a cupcake right now, maybe about 3 or 4. But, bring the cupcakes to the table. They're really great. Food is always on the Donald's mind.
If they buy an energy efficient truck, they have inside information. So
listen to that one more time.
Buy a truck if they want to buy, if they buy an energy efficient truck, they have inside information.
Now, people would hear something like this and they would probably be enraged, and rightfully so. President of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, is telling you, my sons trade on inside information. They know exactly what's coming. Yeah, the rule of law is dead. However, we are only in this predicament because the president of the United States is accelerating the inevitable demise. This has been going on for decades now, and nobody did anything about it. We sounded the alarm. We said that crime is being committed at an exponentially high rate in the white-collar sector, and no one was doing anything about it. How many times over the past 7 years have Jen and I been screaming from the rooftops that our congressional representative in South Florida is a prolific insider trader to the tune of millions of dollars, and it wasn't just anything. It was war profiteering. She was making millions while people were being killed, and no one did anything. Well, that's just the way the system goes. Remember when Nancy Pelosi was prompted when she was Speaker of the House? Madam Speaker, are you going to do anything about the insider trading problem you have on Capitol Hill? We're capitalists and we're allowed to trade stocks. That's your response. And now you have this. Everybody's going to throw their arms up in the air and say, we are in a collapsed empire, and we are. But he's not the cause of it. He's simply taking advantage of the last remnants of this broken system because he's like a slow-moving car crash. You can't turn away. It's too obvious. And so naturally, people are glued in. They see exactly what's happening. They see exactly what's coming. And so this shouldn't surprise anybody. This could have been nipped in the bud if we had rule of law, but we don't have it. So regardless of where your political ideology is, you can understand why somebody like Zohran is much more appealing than somebody like him. I don't think Zohran Mamdani is doing any type of insider trading, at least not to my knowledge. If he wanted to, who knows what he could get away with? We know what Eric Adams did. We know what Governor Cuomo did. Heck, we know what Bloomberg did. We know what de Blasio did. And here we are, all this while, now seeing what happens when you don't nip something in the bud. You get this. Just totally throwing it out there. Yeah, we insider trade. It's like, yeah, we drone some folks. It's the same thing. Well, it's not the same thing, but you get the idea.
It's pretty tough in that sense. I tell my kids, stay away from as much as you can stay away from, but they also have a life. You know, they have to make a lot of money. They got to be filthy rich.
And this is why when you think about the worst elements of the Trump presidency, and I think about the people who invested in his meme coin and the amount of money that he has made, but also the amount of money that people have lost. It is my understanding, I don't think I'm misquoting here, but I believe that Trump with his meme coin has made over $500 million. And there are thousands of people that have lost everything. In fact, the average person, if I'm remembering the number specifically, the average person that has invested in Trump's meme coin at the point that they bought it on average is now worth 10% of what that was. He got rich, so did a handful of others, and everybody else lost it all. That is the definition of a pump and dump scheme. It is a federal crime, and no one's going to be prosecuted. And as I've said, one of the harsh lessons, one of the really harsh lessons in what is going to happen as a result of the Biden crime syndicate getting away with what they got away with, blanket pardons for everybody, going back decades, that's the precedent. It's now been set. And now everybody else will take advantage of it, including Trump. Why do you think they're doing it so blatantly? Because they know when push comes to shove at the 11 o'clock hour, everybody's going to get their pardon. Everybody. And there will be no justice. So where do we go? What's the next move? The only logical move is that we're heading for some type of a revolution. There is no other explanation. We are where we are. If you have not smashed that like button yet, guys, please do. We want to get this out there to as many people as we can on this 4th of July. I assume that more people will join as the firework festivities conclude. The East Coast, it should be just about done by now. I'm in the Central Time Zone. They just started a little while ago. It is dusk here, and that's when it starts. But yes, this is imperative. People come to terms with this reality. And I don't think we're sugarcoating it in any way. I think everyone understands the significance of this moment. And while it is, you know, the 250th anniversary, it is a big moment for a lot of people, as it should be. It can mean a lot of different things, but I think just coming to terms with the reality of our broken system is what ends up happening, because with Trump, there is no hiding, and he doesn't want to hide. Is that true? Are you just making things up, Jen? I don't know if that's a thing, or if you're just winging it. You know, that's to me something that I think is very important. That we recognize why today is such a big day. Oh, yes, that is a very good point. For anybody who's still setting off fireworks, make sure you're careful out there. Make sure that you don't blow your hand off. If you haven't already, smash that like button. As I said, we want to get this out there to as many people as we can. With that being said, they banned fireworks in Utah. Let me tell you something. Maddie, you know, the thing about Utah is is one of, if not the most conservative state in the union, and it is one of the most economically successful states. They have their shit together in Utah. It's also one of the most beautiful states. Yes, they do, especially dogs. Again, if you haven't hit that like button, guys, please make sure that you do. If there's kind of like an image that kind of captured exactly what went down today. I was going to be in DC for the 4th to see what this event was all about, the Great American State Fair, and I did not make it. Still getting over the cold, but I'm fine now. Everything happens for a reason. And so here we are. If anything could perfectly capture what this celebration was all about, I think some of you may have heard about this skydiver that showed up at the event. Unexpected, of course. I don't think this was planned. I think that this guy just decided to do this. And here's what ended up happening. Let's get the perfect capture. Come on now. Okay. So this is right before impact. And as you can see, he's like really decked out in his getup. And what's so interesting is that getting yourself caught on that tree. Now, apparently the guy's okay. Not that I would wish any ill will on somebody. He's just having a good time. If this doesn't kind of spell it all out, the utter disaster that was this so-called state fair. Keep in mind, a lot of people suffer from heat stroke. The turnout was drastically underwhelming. And even the MAGA influencers that were there today that were insisting that people were showing up left and right, that the lines were long. Yeah, the lines were long. People are going to show up on the 4th of July in D.C. They always do. This isn't a new thing. It isn't that, oh my God, it's a state fair. It's the Great American State Fair of 250th, and then everybody's showing up. Yeah, I'm sure tens of thousands of people showed up. They always do on the 4th of July in Washington, D.C. This is not a new thing. But they tried to make it out like it was this grand spectacle of an event. It turns out that it wasn't. And in so many ways, It is a reflection of how much the country has continued to sink. It's also a reflection of how much Trump's movement has died. That's not what it once was. So it definitely is a metaphor. The collapsing empire. That's what this is. One big swoop. Play it one more time.
You totally ruined my party.
If that doesn't spell it, I don't know what does. Now, there was a march today, a very important march, a very important gathering, but that's not it. The one that really matters is the one that took place in Philadelphia, the real birthplace of our nation. It was led by the Jolly Green Ginger and Greg Stoker. This is the Veterans Against War with Iran on Behalf of Israel march. Here we go.
Getting into the police, the Philadelphia police are here. This is not a permitted protest. We did not ask for permission. We did not get a permit. We just took the streets.
And now the police are responding, obviously, to our presence. So far, they're not fucking with us. This is the largest veteran-led action since the Vietnam backlash.
Fucking largest veteran-led action since Vietnam.
And it's not just us, it's community groups, there's PSL over there, there's labor organizers, trade unions. We should have been doing this 20 years ago. The next best time to start this is now.
Facts. It's time for us as a people to collectively get together, raise our voices, and raise hell.
You couldn't be more right. And naturally, this is not an event. And as Jen points out, that's a real protest. That's the difference between the so-called No Kings March and something like this. This is something that was organized in totality by veterans and current military personnel. And initially, they didn't want them there, but it's probably not going to be a very good look on the 4th if you decided to kick a whole bunch of military veterans and active duty members out from marching in the streets on the 4th of July. So they marched.
No more fascists, no more war. No more fascists, no more war. This is what we're fighting for. This is what we're fighting for. We say no more fascists, no more wars. No more fascists, no more wars. This is what we're fighting for. No more fascists, no more wars. No more fascists, no more wars. This is what we're fighting for.
I got to tell you, it looks like a lot of people showed up to this. Dare I say, is it possible that more people showed up to this march than they did to the Great American State Fair in D.C.? I'm just saying, if you're going to show up for an event, a political rally, any type of an event, to me, this is the type of an event that you show up for. This is the real deal. And you can see that this goes deep. There are a lot of people there. And if you're going to make an impact, why not do it on a day like today? This is also, David, this is also one of the reasons I want people to understand why I have a certain soft spot for Tucker Carlson. Because Tucker Carlson is an insider. He is, in my opinion, part of intelligence. And I do believe that there are a significant portion of, a big enough portion of members that are in the intelligence community that understand that this empire is collapsing and that we need to collectively work together to figure out how the hell we're going to get out of this. And I think they also understand where a lot of the problem is coming from. It's always, yes, and I forget the name of the gentleman that Greg does the co-host Colonial Outcast with. Love to have those guys on the podcast, 100%, and vice versa. And so at some point, exactly, that's the whole point of this rally. Who the hell wants to die for Israel? And that's the question a lot of people are asking themselves now, because they're realizing that shit is about to get really serious. There is an understanding, don't know if it's a guarantee, but there is an understanding that as many as 60,000 American troops are potentially being put on the ground in Iran. I would say that's some pretty serious shit. And we should not be taking that lightly. So, conscious objections from everywhere should be happening. And when you see marches like this, it gives you a little bit of hope. And a big shout out to Mike Preisner, who I believe is also one of the main organizers of this group.
This is what we're fighting for. No more fascists, no more wars. No more fascists, no more wars. This is what we're fighting for. This is what we're fighting for. Yeah, we gotta keep it moving, make some noise, make some noise. I know it's hot. I know it's hot. I know it's hard to be in these streets, but you're doing an amazing job taking care of each other because we believe that we will win. Yes?
Amen. That is the significance in many ways. Things have to get bad before they get better. And in many cases, they have to get really bad before they get better. For the average American to truly stand up in a way that they need to. But when the veterans start doing it, then you know for absolute certainty that the needle is moving in the right direction. Otherwise, who the hell knows where it might go? And there's a reason for this. Colin, I need the Netanyahu clip. So the Saint in Yahoo decided to make a 4th of July message. But I want to remind people that even though we're marching and that we're fighting against this right now, because it's bad, we understand that. What we also need to understand is that he is only but one person. He's a bad one. He's not the only reason, but he is of one many that when you think about, it's pretty bad. Colin, I need the clip, the video clip that I sent you. I'll pull up that tweet, but I need the video clip. I'm gonna have to reset it. Okay, so believe it or not, this image is from 2019. This is 7 years ago. Now, apparently at the time, these guys were feuding. Trump and Netanyahu were having a problem that I do not recall specifically that was taking place during the first term in 2019. And I think this may have been the 4th of July. I think the date might be on there. But Colin, if you could scroll down, please. This is July 4th, 2019. He puts up a picture of JFK and David Ben-Gurion. The only reason a person would put up a photograph like that is because they are trying to send a message. Now, again, like I said, this is a message from 7 years ago. 7 years ago, I don't think so many people were necessarily digging in on the details of whether or not there was a direct connection that was becoming mainstream between JFK's assassination and the state of Israel. But when you look back on it now, boy, oh boy, is this cryptic. Very cryptic. And he always does it with a wink and a nod. That's the danger. The inherent danger is that he's letting you know. Now, do I think he would put something like that out there now in the last year plus? Probably not. But the beautiful thing about the internet is that it's forever. And because the internet is forever, you can now see that this is some serious shit. And I would guess that a lot of people have been revisiting this message. Pretty horrific, if you ask me. This is Netanyahu cryptically messaging the American people on the 4th of July 7 years ago with an image of the president and the man that many people feel is directly responsible for his assassination. Now, again, like I said, 7 years ago, we were not having this conversation the way we are now. So to say that he is showing his hand would be an understatement. He also decided to issue a statement today on the 4th of July.
Moments when history speaks to us. This is one of them. My dear friends, President Trump and the people of America, today the United States celebrates 250 years of independence, 250 years of freedom, 250 years of defending freedom. On behalf of the people of Israel, I wish you all a happy and joyful Independence Day. My friends, this 4th of July carries a special meaning for me personally. Exactly 50 years ago, as America celebrated its bicentennial, Israel carried out one of the greatest hostage rescue missions in history, Operation Jonathan in Entebbe, Uganda. More than 100 innocent hostages were brought home alive by our courageous soldiers. One commander did not, my brother Yoni. He gave his life so that others could live. This is what the brave soldiers of Israel and America have done again and again in these 50 years.
I thought you were coming on here to just wish us a happy 4th of July, 250th anniversary, and instead you turned it into, by the way, have we talked about the wonderful experience that our soldiers went through, saving all of those lives, Israeli soldiers. Need I remind you what our Israeli soldiers are capable of doing? Daring missions? Samson option, anybody? You don't hide it. They're rubbing it in our face.
And 50 years later, we are still defending freedom. We may live in different continents, but there's a strong bond between us because we have one destiny. We know.
Did you hear that? We have one destiny. The United States and Israel is the same. That's what they want you to believe. The United States and Israel cannot be separated. And that is why they are working overtime to pass a law that would essentially conscript the United States military and the Israeli military as one. Not to say that they haven't been doing a lot of work together to begin with, outside of what the laws actually say, but wanting to make it official so that as the United States and its citizenry, like us revolutionaries that are trying to pull away from the Zionist state, well, he wants to make sure that that doesn't happen. Make no mistake. This is not an enduring message. This is a warning. This is yet another cryptic message, a cryptic warning from the devil himself, letting you know that if they go down, they're going to try to take us with them. Remember that.
That freedom is never cheap. It must be continually purchased.
Did I hear that correctly? Did you hear that correctly? Let's listen one more time because I don't think I'm going deaf.
It must be continually purchased. It must be. Freedom is never cheap. It must be continually purchased.
Freedom must be purchased. Well, that's a new one. I haven't heard that one before. But I think we all understand what he's referring to. Freedom must be purchased. whatever form of freedom you have, that's all you've got. You've got a lot of money, you've got a lot of influence, but you do not have the people. So you're admitting that the only way that the state of Israel stays afloat is through bribery. There is no other way. He said it, not us. We've been saying it. But he admitted it. He admits that the only way that Israel stays afloat is through bribery. Some country.
It must be continually defended. America has been the greatest force for liberty the modern world has known. Israel is proud to stand beside her. Israel is proud to stand beside all of you. Because our alliance is built not only on shared interest, it's built on shared values. Today, those values are under attack. The tyrants we face chant, "Death to America, death to Israel." They think freedom is weak. They think democracies are weak. They're wrong about our two democracies. Because when America and Israel stand together, freedom stands stronger. Together we defend freedom. Together we defend our common civilization. Together, with God's help, freedom will triumph over tyranny. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless Israel. And may God bless our great alliance. Happy birthday. Happy Independence Day, America.
If we have anything to learn from this, which I think there's plenty that we can learn from this. As I said at the beginning, Netanyahu, he's not the cause, but he's certainly one of the main players. And he has no problem reminding us every once in a while just who we answer to. The billionaire ruling class of this country is predominantly Zionist. And their primarily economic interests, perhaps some religious interests. But overall, their interests lies with Israel, not our people. Although we do have to do something about those evangelicals in the Deep South and in the Heartland. I think a lot of that stems from the crooked pastors that are on the take that sell this bullshit to their congregants because they're such God-fearing, simple people. The Jewish Zionists, forget it. It's all economic. Net-to-Nazi, I like that, Kathy. That's a good one. If we have to be reminded on this 250th holiday or birthday, it is a reminder of exactly what happens when you are looking for reasons as to why this is one of those 4th of Julys that if you look around and you observe people's social media and the statements that they are making pretty demonstrative statements regarding how they feel about where the country is right now. They can't pretend that things are good right now because they're not. They're bad and they will get worse. Now, I'm not saying that if we cut off the head of the Israel snake, that things won't get better. They will, but it's not going to solve the problem. Just like we should still vote, but it's not going to solve the problem. We have come to the realization, as I hope most of you have, that we are in a revolutionary moment. And the only way we're getting out of this is through revolution. That is the only way. And when I hear people that I talk to, like I did this evening, that are definitely on the conservative side of politics, let me assure you, there is no question, none whatsoever, that they understand we are heading for that. We're heading for that revolutionary moment. Now, how we get through it, I don't know, because it is going to be a treacherous ride, and we should all be prepared for the worst. And I also want to do a sidebar here for a minute. So we come up on the first hour. And well, for me, I know Libertarian Social Dem, who I'm not sure is here or not, but he had left a lot of super chats asking me if I would cover some of the statements that Nick Fuentes had made pertaining to where we are as a nation and their thoughts on kind of this, I guess what you would say, this sort of I would describe it as the ignorant moment of the Americans who simply do not understand where we are right now, who want to pretend that if you just got a whole bunch of migrants out of the country, that that's going to solve the problem. It's not. It is not going to solve it, because the fundamental problems are only going to remain. You can remove whatever people you want. The fundamental problems don't leave. You can't change it. And the danger here in what is becoming a greater push for this sort of white nationalist type movement, be very clear and don't misinterpret what Fuentes is saying here.
Countries are the only ones being invaded by non-whites, and that's because they're better. They're better. We have more stuff. That's the difference. We are rich, they are poor. We are advanced, they are primitive. We have technology, they don't. We're productive, they're lazy. That's the difference. There is no exodus of white people moving to the Middle East because it's a dump. And
you know, the raw reality of where we are as a nation when people talk like this, and as I said, I get his charisma. I get why people listen to him. There are a lot of great places in the Middle East, West Asia. So this idea that people are primitive and they don't evolve, I don't understand that at all. I mean, if we're being honest here, the way that he tries to sell this notion that our country is great because it's white, does he believe it? I don't know. I don't give a shit, because it's ignorant, and it's bigoted, and it's stupid. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people who listen to it and think it's gold. And there are a lot of people, when economic woes become the order of the day, what ends up happening in many cases is people end up finding scapegoats. It's a tale as old as time. Now, this has been going on for a long time. And I'm not surprised. I'm just not. I'm not surprised by him. I'm not surprised by anything he does or anything that he says. But I think people need to understand that the hating of others, again, it's one thing if people come into this country and they don't assimilate and they make it difficult for those to work. And as I've said, I've been very clear about this. I am a lot more conservative on immigration than most people who are on the populist left. And I've always said it's very simple, because the powers that be always want to dilute the labor field for the purpose of maximizing profits for themselves and their shareholders. It is never about workers. It is never about their needs. And if you allow for the opening of the floodgates, this is essentially what happens. That's not to say that immigration is bad, but to understand why it's done the way that it's done. It's always done to the detriment of working people. The way that Fuentes is framing it is beyond ignorant, but unfortunately, he knows his audience and they eat it up. And they think that this is what the real problem is, but it isn't. If you are not addressing capital, and he would never do that, if you're not addressing that reality, if his audience, the people who hear him, are listening, there is a select few group of extremely powerful and influential people, some who might pay Fuentes, you never know, that this is the reason why we are in the predicament we're in. History has shown 200 to 250 years. That is the lifeblood of how long these economic and political systems typically last. And then they die. And here we are, looking for a reason to blame anybody but the real culprit, or culprits, I should say.
Before you go and complain about colonialism, I'm sorry, are they moving to Turkey? When was Turkey colonized? Are they moving to any Muslim country? Absolutely not. There's no exodus of white people moving to any one of these. Are they moving to Ethiopia? They were never colonized. Although Ethiopia is Christian, to be fair.
You see, he's all over the place. And the way that he goes about his postulating about what he thinks he knows and doesn't know about politics. Again, he's playing to a crowd predominantly young that is kind of at a loss for what to do. And I don't blame them. We should all feel like we're at a loss for what to do and who to blame. But we know who to blame. Remember, and this is the reason why I cover Fuentes from time to time, he has an audience of very desperate men, young men, men with no direction and don't know what the fuck to do with their lives. And I've met quite a few of these guys. And the real danger, as the economic system continues to break, is violence becomes that much more likely. And are they going to go target who they should? Probably not. We already saw what happened in South Florida the other day with that standoff where the lady shot the guy dead. And this is going to become more and more common. This is, again, why revolution is inevitable. We can't look around at what's going on here and not realize just how much worse it can get.
But no, there are no white people moving to any Muslim country. Those people are moving into Europe because Europe is rich, because Europe is smart, because Europe is productive, because Europe has civilization. And anyway.
As I said, there is a reason. And Myra, it isn't just the fact that these men are virgins. It's a lot worse than that. What you have to remember about a lot of these men is that they have no real interpersonal communication capabilities. They're incels. They're not attractive, probably don't eat right, don't exercise, don't get enough sleep, terminally online, never dated a girl, and if they have, it hasn't gone well. Haven't learned from it, don't get good advice. And by that measure, they end up becoming very resentful at the world. And this is their outlet. Their outlet is to this type of ignorance. Now, normally it wouldn't mean as much, but right now it becomes dangerous because things are bad. And then you have people who take advantage of the fact that things are bad. And they play right into that broken system, broken mindset, and try to give them an outlet to blame who they feel they have to blame in order to feel some sense of satisfaction. Now, if you want to talk about somebody who, in my opinion, is doing a great job with his platform, actually, I'm gonna charge it in another direction. I'm actually going to show a compare and contrast here. I want you guys to see exactly what ends up happening. I just showed you, yes, fine weather, some men are just misogynistic. A lot of people are a lot of things. But there's a lot of things that some people have inherently that they suppress or they don't fight against. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because somebody is speaking that language to them that maybe they normally weren't thinking about, but now it's being reaffirmed. And then all bets are off. Now, I showed you all the perspective that comes from the conservative side, the right. Now, I'm going to show you what ends up happening when that same type of coercive language comes from the left, but it doesn't come as derogatory as somebody like Fuentes is going to throw out there at you. The language Fuentes uses is coarse, it's vulgar, it's bigoted, it's terrible. But then you flip it to the other side and you take it to somebody like John Faverau. You see, John Faverau is Pod Save America. He's one of the Obama boys. He's got a very large platform like Fuentes does. Now, he doesn't use the same language that Fuentes does to defend the corporate state, to find scapegoats, to tell you you're going in a direction that you shouldn't be going in. He just does it in another way. But the same rules apply. Don't identify the real problem.
Democratic Party, if not its voters. And what we saw yesterday evening were Democrats across the city turning out and voting for a new kind of politics.
A slate of 3 candidates endorsed by Zohran Mamdani won their Democratic primaries in deep blue House districts. In the 7th district, Democratic Socialist Claire Valdez won the open seat over a pretty progressive opponent endorsed by the retiring Democratic member of Congress. In the 10th district, progressive city comptroller Brad Lander defeated incumbent Dan Goldman in a race that was largely about Israel. Both men are Jewish. Lander ran as a self-proclaimed liberal Zionist, but hit Goldman on voting against legislation to block military aid to Israel and taking money from pro-Israel lobbying groups. And then the biggest upset of the night, 4-term Representative Adriano Espaillat, head of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and the first undocumented immigrant to serve in Congress, lost his Harlem Bronx district in an upset to a leftist community organizer named Daria Liza Avila Chevalier, a Democratic socialist who also believes in abolishing prisons, police, and all deportations. She might be the most left-wing candidate to ever win a Democratic primary in our lifetime. There's been a lot of focus on her old tweets, which she has deleted and mostly apologized for. I'm fine with that. My general position is to give people a chance who want to take back something they said or posted. Certainly would love to take back things that I've posted. Here's where I have a problem. She has not apologized for attending an anti-Israel rally on October 8th, 2023, a rally that was condemned by Zohran Mamdani.
That is a lie. You are taking Zohran's words out of context. That is not what he said. And of course, the biggest reason, remember, for those who may be new to the channel, and if you haven't hit that like button yet, guys, please, I don't know why anybody hasn't put up like and subscribe, but please do. Let's get it out there. Please make sure that you do. One of the things that happened right after October 7th, Jen immediately put out a message saying that there's going to be 2 million dead people in the desert. It was a warning within a matter of hours. And at that point, we didn't know for sure if it was a 9/11 inside job. Of course, it turned out to be one. We said they've got carte blanche to go and do whatever they want now, and they certainly have, and then some. So you're really getting on this young lady who had the foresight to know exactly what was coming for the Palestinian people? That's what you're talking about? And Jen, you think I spend time getting myself prepped for a show? How about this guy? He probably takes 2 hours in the mirror before he goes live. I'm just saying.
AOC and Brad Lander. The other problem I have, she sat for an interview with the New York editorial board last week where she said she's against all deportations. She's for open borders because, quote, bordering is a very modern construct, actually. She wants to abolish prisons and refused to say, when asked, she got 4 different chances on this, refused to say that a convicted murderer should be sentenced to any jail time at all. Maybe she turns over a new leaf in Congress and like her voting record doesn't match some of these more extreme positions. I hope so. But I think the reason I bring this up is because when Democrats get questions about this, I think the answer is easy and important to give, which is that she currently holds a range of views that go from moronic to abhorrent.
There are 535 federally elected representatives in the United States. There was a time, many years ago, where we used to have socialists and communists in elected office around the United States. And their philosophies are probably very similar, if not even more hard than hers. And here's the thing. Do I agree with all of Darlie's positions? Of course not. But you know what I understand about democracy and the balancing of power? Sometimes you need radicals to get in there to draw the lines away from the extreme on one end and bring it back to a more sane position in a more reasonable place where most people can get along. Immigration should not be easy, but it shouldn't be impossible. We should not be treating our immigrants like they're subhuman, like we do with the Palestinians. It's always easy. If you're born in the right place, if you have the right looks, you have the right amount of money, it is so much easier to punch down than it is to punch up. And part of the reason why somebody like Faverau constantly punches down, like Nick Fuentes, is because they're always making plans to climb the next rung on the ladder. They always are thinking about who is the next person whose ass I have to kiss in order to get to the next rung on the ladder. Do you think for one single solitary second that John Faverau will not support Gavin Newsom or Josh Shapiro for president of the United States? Of course he will. This is what they do. This is their side. The difference, of course, with Fuentes is that he's backed off of Trump. On the Democratic side, you don't get anybody backing off of anybody. In fact, when they tell them, don't support Ro Khanna, I think they're going to support AOC because AOC is a player now. But even if that were the case, they're always going to defend their corporate infrastructure, full stop. That is the top priority. That is what it's always been. That is what it will always be. And that is exactly what he's doing here. So when we say you cannot vote your way out of this, and you certainly can't do it through the two-party system because eventually the buck's going to stop somewhere where the will of the people will be blocked. And that is exactly what Faverau is doing. You think he's a wealthy man because he steps outside the box? You think the Midas Touch boys are wealthy because they step outside the box? You think any of those young men that get put on the CNN panels would ever truly step outside the box? As I said, over the next few weeks, you're going to see where everybody really stands when it comes to Shama Sawant. You'll really get to see where they stand because they have been stone silent and they're going to stay that way. Even in the face of Adam, we should have the U.S. and Israeli militaries merged together as one, Smith as her opponent. But he's a Democrat and she's not. And that means that race is off limits. And that is why people like Faverau are where they are. And that is why we say that even though Faverau does not use the same type of language as somebody like a Nick Fuentes would use, they're still the same. Because the same end result will come of it. Fuentes is gauche and unkempt and probably an incel. He believes that women do not have the right to control their bodies. Faverau does believe that they do. But when push comes to shove, it's always the song and dance. It's always the bread and circus. There's nothing tangible. John Faverau is not going to say one fucking word about the veterans marching in Philadelphia today. He won't say anything. None of them will, because it goes against the script. The No Kings rallies, that's a script. What happened earlier, that's not a script. Know the difference.
And not only are those views not aligned with most Democrats in the country, nearly all Democrats in the country, actually most elected Democratic socialists, but like, I don't even think they align with like a lot of the people who probably voted for her. So like, I think people should you just got to say that.
You don't have to say anything, but knowing you and how you're paid, this is again a reflection of what happens when you go against the grain. Faverau has a high production studio. He is on the corporate algorithm. He has major backers. They probably buy views like Little Ben buys views for the Daily Wire. And that's one of the primary reasons why when we cover certain channels, certain content creators, it is never from an endearing perspective. It's never from a gossiping perspective. It is always from, these are the people leading you on a bridge to nowhere. They do not care about your future. They just care if you're a sucker enough to hang around with them long enough so they can make as much off of you before you figure out what's really going on. That's the downside. And when we go live, when we have clips and no one gets a message, they don't know that it's on. This is the price you pay for saying what needs to be said. This is the cross we all have to bear. This is where we are. I'm not saying Faverau is the exact same thing as Fuentes, but they're pretty fucking equal in many ways. Because again, you're still going to the same place. And if this 4th of July can teach us anything, this 250th anniversary can teach us anything, there is no scenario where we are not heading for revolution. In fact, as Jen says, we're already in it. It's already here. We just don't know the depths of how far it's going to go. But little by little by little, we come to that reality that speaking up and speaking out is the only way forward. We are reminded today that if not for my love of basketball, of which I have a lot, basketball is the sport I played when I was growing up. And I want to remind people that I don't know if the rule still applies, but Jaylen Brown is a NBA superstar, formerly of the Boston Celtics and now the Philadelphia 76ers. And this is a person who has been on the side of Palestine since jump. Now, keep in mind, he got his contract prior to these statements, but he was making statements in favor of Palestine going back to the beginning of 2024. So he's been at it from the beginning. Colin, do you have that image? Pretty sure I sent you an image of Brown. Oh, I thought that I did. Do you not have it? Let me see if I can grab. Well, I want people to see this. Let me see. Got a nice little something I'm going to share with you guys in a minute. This just came across my feed as I was going for the pick. So, Jaylen Brown, as I mentioned, is an NBA superstar. And he is somebody who has been as outspoken as anybody when it comes to this particular issue for some time. And now a lot of people are looking around and asking themselves, why is it that the Boston Celtics basically sold him for pennies on the dollar to an in-division rival, their biggest rival. In fact, in the history of the NBA, for those who may or may not know, the biggest rival in the history of the Boston Celtics franchise is, I know everybody says it's the Lakers from a championship perspective, yes, but in terms of just a historical in-conference, in-division opponent, there is no greater opponent that they've ever had than the Philadelphia 76ers. And that's who they traded him to for nothing. So that's very strange in itself. But as you can see here, highest paid NBA player in history, Jaylen Brown wears free Gaza bracelet in solidarity. And again, as I said, this is going back a ways back, 2.5 years. So he was on it from the beginning. And apparently Jaylen is also a Muslim. So why do I bring this up? There apparently is more than what meets the eye in terms of why Jaylen Brown was traded. Here's some of the reasoning behind it.
Is lying to you about the Jaylen Brown trade. It wasn't salary cap or team drama. It's actually something ESPN will never mention. Boston's ownership are some of the biggest war profiteers on planet Earth. When an NBA athlete tears their Achilles, their on-court value drops substantially. Only 2 players, Kevin Durant and Dominique Wilkins, ever returned to the same form. Think about it. Do you really believe a $6 billion franchise is going to gamble their entire future on a shredded Achilles because of a Twitch stream?
Was Jaylen Brown acting like Antonio behind the scenes? Like, am I missing something?
Even JB said it after the trade.
I definitely think there's more to it.
He knows he can't spill the full story, so I will. It only starts to make sense when you realize that the people writing his checks are in a boardroom full of military contractors.
Now, if you have the face of your franchise making statements to the effect of, I am not in favor of the war machine that you are so generously benefiting from, that's a big problem, especially when you're the most recognizable face of the franchise. You're a finals MVP. It's very hard to sweep these things under the rug. If this is some G League player, if this is some bench rider, they can just cast them away and no one would be able to say or determine exactly why that was the case. But in the case of Jaylen Brown, there's no hiding this one. And the NBA's ownership is completely Zionist, almost universally across the board. So this, again, should not come as any surprise.
And let's look at the receipts. And by the way, if you like to learn about the dirty money that actually makes sports move, follow Blood in the Arena. First of all, Jaylen Brown is Muslim, and he has been very actively pro-Palestine and anti-war. Meanwhile, his old bosses make the war machine hum. First of all, there's Adisa Mittal, who's the CEO of ArcelorMittal, which produces the armored steel used for combat vehicles in global war zones. Sixth Street Partners just used their tech company Boomi to push a $100 million buyout to an active duty IDF major who was very recently on the front lines in Gaza. Then you've got Bill Chisholm, who founded private equity firm STG, which invests in major military and cybersecurity contractors like Govini, Red Seal, Trellix, and Skyhigh. That's 4 companies. You've also got Israel simps like Stephen A. stoking the fire.
I want to remind people of why I can't stand Stephen A. Smith, not just because he's a total hack and really doesn't know shit about Shinola when it comes to basketball. He's just a blowhard who unfortunately speaks to the lowest common denominators, especially in the Black community. His I'm a brother type of language doesn't do any service to anybody. But it's made him a very rich man because he walks the corporate line. He always has. And all the controversy the other day about him dissing on the Lakers because 3 of their top players are white, I don't give a shit about that shit. I care about this. I care about Stephen A. Smith constantly talking about how much he loves Israel. I got a big fucking problem with that. And so should everybody else. So you can understand what it means to speak out on issues that really matter. And make no mistake, Stephen A. Smith has been an attack dog against Jaylen Brown. Hard. Do you wonder why? I don't. Now it's more clear than ever. And I often wondered what was the case. Stephen A. Smith recently went on a tirade of a rant against Zohran Mamdani and the 3 congressional representatives who he just helped get elected, saying how insane they are and that they have no business being on Capitol Hill. The only type of person who talks that way is somebody who's a corporate whore that's bought. And that is exactly who Stephen A. Smith is and always will be. And he is a failed basketball player who never amounted to shit. He thinks he's something special, but in reality, he's nothing. And his podcast is an even bigger joke. Don't bother listening to it. You're not missing anything.
Dragging JB through the mud by making up fake stories and drama to help protect the financial interests of his pay daddies as well.
I am so surprised at this return for Jaylen Brown. He never did anything that we could see that warranted the Celtics to get rid of him in this fashion.
So if you're confused by this trade, it's because your scope is too small. Zoom out and look at the bigger picture of all the ownership investments. For a boardroom full of war profiteers, a quiet max player on crutches is infinitely safer than a healthy, outspoken rebel with a microphone.
Couldn't have said it better. Could not have said it better. That is why these stories matter. And that is why, whether it is Kyrie Irving or Jaylen Brown, they try to destroy these men. But that's another element of the revolution that's happening right now, because politics is seeping into everything. And as Jen has often said, Trump was going to accelerate the revolution. It was inevitably going to be pushed into hyperdrive once he became the face of American politics. Oh, somebody's got to get that for us. Colin, Jen, find out about the Stephen. We can definitely add the Stephen A. Smith body bag video. Are you implying that he should be in a body bag? I'm just saying. Now, believe it or not, there's actually a two-parter to this. Here we go.
Wasn't traded because of bad blood with the team, but because the owner of the Celtics doesn't really own the Celtics. Jaylen is the latest victim of private equity in pro sports, and I promise you, it's only getting worse from here. Last year, when the Celtics sold to Bill Chisholm and his PE backers for $6.1 billion, we all kind of saw this coming. The deal was actually illegal from the jump. Here's my friend June Lee to explain.
Sixth Street puts in more money than Chisholm, a structure that violated the NBA's rules on how much private equity can own for an NBA team. Despite that, the Celtics publicly announced the sale anyway, with Chisholm as the lead buyer. That public announcement helped Chisholm raise money from other investors, allowing him to reduce Sixth Street's percentage after the fact.
Essentially, Bill is more puppet than owner. Sixth Street has the real power, which allows him to run the standard PE playbook. Think about the Celtics like Jersey Mike's, which also sold to private equity. Over the last few
I cannot begin to tell you how absolutely disgusting it is to hear that Jersey Mike's sold out to private equity, because I know who Mike is. Jersey Mike's is based in, well, it was based in Belmar, New Jersey, which is about 30 minutes from where I grew up. This is a Jersey Shore staple for, well, since 1956, 70 years. Why would you sell out to private equity? Why would you just not give your franchisees the opportunity to buy the franchises from you? Why would you do it this way? If you want to talk about something that truly is destroying our country, private equity, as much as anything, is what has destroyed our economy. And who knows if private equity would have even been possible if not for the removal of Glass-Steagall back in 1999. Now it's on a whole other level, because you can't do community banking anymore. Everything's commercial. So, is it really surprising?
sold to private equity. Over the last few years, we all noticed the subs have a little bit less meat, but they're still good enough to buy. That's the idea behind the Jaylen Brown trade. Sure, he's a superstar in the middle of his prime, but he's expensive and only getting more expensive on his next contract. Will the team be as good with Paul George? Of course not, but they'll still be competitive in the East, and the fans are still going to watch. Really, that's the saddest part. Say what you want about them, but Boston has some of the most passionate fans in the world. Watching these two groups exploit their loyalty is devastating. Perhaps the only thing more depressing is when you learn that 6th Street also owns 10% of the Spurs. How this is legal, I have no idea, but unfortunately, we're just getting started here. PE money, 6th Street also owns 10% of the Spurs.
Well, Jen, there goes that one. Sorry.
How this is legal, I have no idea, but unfortunately, we're just getting started here. PE money is flowing into sports faster than ever before, and my prediction is we'll see many more of these moves over the next decade. I'm Michael Smith, and that's my take.
So you can see why there's multiple layers to why Jaylen Brown was removed from the Celtics. And this is why rooting for sports teams is basically dead in many ways, because first of all, there's no loyalty anymore. That's over. And private equity has completely sank its teeth into another part of society that should have been off limits. But again, there is no end. There is no limit. There is nowhere they will not go in order to basically suck the system dry until it's no more. And that's where we are. Now, I again have said that the main connector here when it comes to Israel is that most of these guys, PE, Laura, physical education, forgive me for not right off the top understanding what you want me to explain. You could explain, just let me know what that means. But what I will say is that right now, private equity. Okay. So basically, I don't know how to explain this well because I'm really not very good at this, but essentially, private equity is the consolidation of wealth into, think of it as like a pooling of capital. And by doing so, there's a lot of different things you can do with it. Compounding interest, you can, you see, the value of real estate, for example, is based on equity growth. It's based on asset accumulation. And then it's about cash flow. And you can basically compound it millions upon millions, if not billions upon billions of dollars. And once you are in that world, you are, I mean, you're kings among men. You could buy up everything. You can also buy things at such exponentially high levels. And yes, well, that's, I should have just used the word stakeholder, but that's what it is. It's a form of stakeholder capitalism where basically you get a whole bunch of people together, you get a whole bunch of wealth, and then you can start buying things that, well, think of Lucky Larry Silverstein and owning the World Trade Center. Only as you go up the ladder, it gets a lot more dirty. And you find out that the unholy intentions of these people are pretty sinister. And they do a lot of bad things. Do not for a second think that what they're doing, that there are not evil intentions behind their work. There is, very much so. The whole concept of private equity is maximizing profits by any means necessary. There are no laws. There are no rules. So take Jersey Mike's, for example, that went the private equity route. you have a good concept, you have a good product. In commercial real estate, typically the way it works with a franchise like this is you have brick and mortar, typically in strip plazas where you will find them. Strip plazas are typically owned by entrepreneurs. Again, these are not big scale type operations. These are, a few million, maybe, 3 to 5 million range. So it could have maybe 6, 7 businesses in the strip. Jersey Mike's happens to be one of them. And in most cases, the person who is owning the Jersey Mike's business is a franchisee. And so that person will basically run the operation in a way that is conducive to making sure that he's making the most amount of money. It's a small business, but also satisfying the customers because that's what brings them back. When the powers that be that own the rights to Jersey Mike's, in this case, Mike's family in at the Jersey Shore, finally decided to give in and sold out, sold it to private equity, and I believe that was Ray Dalio. And now you make changes. You don't pay the employees as much. You don't use as much meat on the sandwich. You cut corners however which way you can to increase the shareholder value. When you make promises to your shareholders, it's almost written in law that you have to keep it. So what do? Convince them that we're going to make some wholesale changes and your quarterly earnings are going to go up from 10% to 13%. And little by little by little, they grow. And all the while, the only people who end up suffering are people like you and I. You think I didn't notice the difference? I mean, I know I was a kid, and I certainly wouldn't eat it anymore. But you go to McDonald's and you look at the McChicken sandwich and you see how small it is now compared to what it used to be. That's just one example. But there are many others out there. The whole point is to concentrate the wealth into fewer and fewer hands and create a serfs-like oligarchic system, which is what we have now that's bordering on fascism. So, what do? Well, as much as I would like to say that there is a way out of this in a peaceful manner, there isn't. It's going to require some serious economic pain for the people at the top, but it's also going to require people to learn new methods in terms of how to fight back. And we cannot be afraid to fight back. We have to be bold. We have to be revolutionary, because that's the only way this is going to change. That's why we learn from our friends like Phil Turney from the USS Liberty. USS Liberty survivor Phil Turney burns Israeli flag on Independence Day in remembrance of 34 crew members killed in 1967. I know it's dangerous, but those are the risks you take. That's our guy. That's our hero. And he's already touting Massey for 28. Not the worst idea. And so a lot of people have been speaking up. And though I've never covered Sneako before, I don't really care much for him. I don't care much for these guys. The point of this clip, which was taken in Times Square, is to show you the depths of which the Zionists will try to sell their ideology and tell you that it's complicated. This is why we gave Sheila McCormick so much shit the other day when she was insisting that the issue between Israel and Palestine is complicated. No, it's not. You're just taking their money. Now, you may not be Wasserman Schultz, but The country is moving on from Israel. It's happening. It may not be happening in South Florida, but it's happening. And here's how we know.
Israel, and we know.
Oh, man.
But what do you guys think about Israel?
Well, how old are you?
I'm almost 15.
Okay, well, not all of you were born there, but the Israeli government's committing a genocide. The UN just admitted that straight up. And now they're going into Lebanon. We want to have peace, and Israel wants to keep bombing Lebanon. So, it's not good.
Don't hate the people of Israel. Like, you can hate the government, but not the people.
Well, you don't know any better. You're 15. You know, you have your whole life, but your government's committing atrocities. Ben Gvir said...
How old are you?
27. Ben Gvir said...
I don't know anything either.
So, as you can see, this kid was prompted to go up to Sneako by his schlubby father standing next to him. Now, when these guys say that they're from Israel, you can clearly hear that they have American accents, probably from New York. And the insistence of, well, don't hate, you can hate the government, but don't hate the people. The super majority, overwhelming majority of the Israeli people are in favor of the genocide. This isn't a one-off situation. This isn't a tyrannical government that is going against the will of its people. They all universally agree, with rare exception, that this is the way forward, that the Greater Israel Project is the way forward. They're not holding back, not even a little bit. Now, if you thought that the explanation, again, you send your little boy up to Sneako to try to talk to him. Nice little ruse you pulled there. Great parenting, by the way.
Okay, well, Ben Gvir said all of Lebanon was burned, and the UN just admitted that Israel's committing a genocide. Okay, well, the UN admitted your government's committing a genocide.
The UN admits a lot of things, but they don't go after North Korea. They don't go after the genocide.
What genocide did North Korea commit?
No, North Korea doesn't.
What genocide did they commit?
What about Iran? Iran didn't kill 30,000.
The protesters is admitted.
So here you have Mr. Schlubdub talking about, what, you're not going to talk about Iran killing 30,000, 40,000? What was the last number we were given? 45,000 people? Even though it has been well documented that the CIA and the Mossad infiltrated many of the protests in Tehran, and they're the ones who started the violence. Or little Ben getting out there saying 42,000 people have been killed, mass slaughtered. Almost 1 million Palestinians have been killed. But let's forget about those people.
That Mike Pompeo, CIA director.
30,000 people killed.
Right. Do you know who the former CIA? You said I don't know anything.
What did the United Nations do about that? Answer my question.
Yeah, they took 3 years for them to admit a genocide. I'm answering your question. Do you want me to respond?
I'm asking you right now about Iran.
Do you want me to respond? Okay, you said the 30,000 protesters, right?
Not the protesters. People
okay, you said the 30,000 people, right? Nope.
No,
you want me to respond? No, you want me to respond? First off, they did. Trump and Marco Rubio said nonstop about this. Okay, listen, you said I don't know anything. The former CIA director, Mike Pompeo, said himself that CIA Mossad infiltrated those protests and started firebombing specifically to cause chaos.
Also, Israelis killed Iranians in Iran?
I said...
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. I don't know if this guy is truly playing stupid or if he is trying to misdirect. Maybe it's a little of both.
CIA director said...
No, I'm saying, forget what he said. What do you think?
I'm saying the former CIA director...
What do you think?
I think absolutely. And there has been no pictures of the bodies. There's been no names. First it was 30,000, then they're saying 40,000. Laura Loomer's now saying 100,000. How many people is it?
I feel sorry for you.
I feel sorry that you're committing a genocide. I feel sorry for the people...
Did I do anything?
Well, your government...
This is the thing you also have to remember that is very important when they say, am I the one blowing up anybody? No, but you're the one funding it and having other people do the dirty work for you. That's what Zionist Jews typically do anyway. They don't get their hands dirty. They spend the money, they get the votes, and they have somebody else go out and do the dirty work. First of all, it's not like Schlubby Dub here would be capable of doing anything. He'd probably get his ass kicked by his own son. And yet, you can tell that his 15-year-old son, he's just parroting what his father's saying. He doesn't seem like a bad kid, but he's going to turn into one because of him. He's going to become a bloodthirsty maniac because of him, because of this supremacist ideology that has to die. Now, we can't stop them, but we can stop them from controlling our country. And once that happens, then they will be stopped. That's our responsibility. No, Mehdi, they are committing genocide. They're all part of it. Anyone who supports Israel is committing genocide. You are aiding and abetting the mass killing of innocent people. That's what you're doing.
Your country, your nation.
Am I committing anything?
Well, you're benefiting off of the genocide that's committed right now.
How am I benefiting?
Do you live in Israel?
Yeah, I live in Israel.
So what are you doing here?
I'm visiting here.
Okay, well, have a great visit. But they say you're our greatest ally, you provide us nothing. We give you troops. Iraq War, for example, we have the Marine Corps right here.
One individual person.
Okay, Israelis.
Unfortunately, you've been brainwashed.
Brainwashed by what, Hamas?
You've been brainwashed.
How many troops did Israel support us with? You're our greatest ally, right? Israel's our greatest ally? What I just said is true. How many troops supported Americans from Israel in the Iraq War? Netanyahu, you're not even responding to what I'm saying.
Because all you do is spew.
Spew what? This is facts. This is true. Okay. Do you want to hear what's true? Do you want to have a conversation, or you came up to me? Do you want to talk, or do you just want to? Sure, but you started talking to me. Do you want to hear something?
From you?
Yes. No?
There's nothing to hear from you.
Okay, then walk away. Then walk away. You don't even hear what I'm saying, and you're saying I'm brainwashed.
Because you're talking about Mike Pompeo.
That is true. Look it up.
So many conspiracies.
This conspiracy. The former CIA director said that. This is not important. This is not important.
Did 9/11 happen?
I'm talking about the genocide happening now.
Did Muslims attack us in 9/11? I mean,
oh, you want to get into this?
I'm just saying, you're going to give us all.
What I'm saying right now is not a conspiracy. This is actually true. He said this.
Show me. I don't care what he said.
You don't care what the former CIA director said? Well, I care. I care.
Oh, so
I care about an intelligence agency saying that the protesters were infiltrated by CIA. I care about that. I care about my country. It means nothing. So information not important. The UN's not important. The CIA is not important.
United Nations. You still didn't answer me about the genocide.
I just responded to you.
What the North Koreans, but the United Nations doesn't talk about North Korea, about what's happening in Rwanda.
This is all. Now you're misdirecting. You want to talk about Israel or what? You're talking about North Korea?
You're talking about United Nations.
Yeah. It took them 3. If they're so anti-Semitic, why did it take them 3 years to admit it's a genocide?
United Nations, and yet the United Nations doesn't do anything else about
all genocide experts admit that Israel's committing a genocide, intentionally killing children. I'm not listening. I'm listening to genocide experts. I'm listening to journalists. I'm talking.
Now, I've seen a lot of people that are very difficult to look at. That clown face is a face that needs to be lit up with a bunch of jabs, hooks, and uppercuts. You think little Ben Shapiro has a punchable face? This guy really has a punchable face. And it isn't just because he's a Zionist. That just adds to it. But this is one of those situations where it would take a hell of a lot of willpower not to knock his teeth out.
Look at you.
I'd like to hear your own voice.
You're not even saying anything. You're not saying anything.
I am saying about United Nations, and you're just going it off.
Okay, so you're saying that's anti-Semitic, United Nations?
Say that.
Okay, so that's a conspiracy theory. All genocide experts are admitting that they're committing a genocide. Not only that, your Minister of National Security, Ben Gvir, said all of Lebanon must burn. So you want to talk about conspiracies? Let's talk about real words.
It's a democracy, and people can say whatever they want. There's people in this country who also say radical things. So what? It doesn't mean that the population, though.
Does that not sound like genocide to you if you want to talk about conspiracy in the moon landing? The Minister of National Security said all of Lebanon must burn.
All of Israelis think that way? Do you really believe that? Have you ever been there? Have you ever been there?
Oh my God, here we go again. Here we need to go to Israel to Sneako. What's your name?
Sneako. I'm David.
Okay, of course.
I will pay for your flight ticket.
Yeah.
And I swear right now, I will pay for you to come to Israel.
Now, anytime somebody like this guy who, you wouldn't know on the surface looking at him that he was loaded with money, but he probably is. I will pay for you to come to Israel. You see, the second somebody says something like that, the first thing that goes off in my head is, okay, if I agree to this, I'm a dead man. That's my first thought. That should be everybody's first thought. Oh, you want me to come to Israel with you? What's going to happen to me there?
I will.
Well, the IDF wrote my name on a missile. They clearly want to get me. Why would I do that?
I promise you. I promise you.
Promise.
Nothing will happen to you.
Yeah.
And I would love to have this interview.
Well, they kill journalists all the time.
They will not.
Also admitted by genocide experts. They target journalists all the time. That's why we don't hear about Gaza the same way. They double tap missiles. It's been caught live.
So he just said it's not true. It has been confirmed that Israel has killed over 250 journalists since October 7th. But this fuck is saying it's not true. So again, why would you not suspect that something terrible would happen if you went over there? Sneako is absolutely correct to be afraid and be concerned, as I would be too.
On TV, or journalists have been targeted by the IDF.
Nico?
Yes.
Nico. I'm David.
I heard that part.
I will take you.
You said this already.
My ticket.
You said this already.
Fly, and you will see for yourself.
Why would I go to a country where the government's saying all of Lebanon must burn? Why would I go there?
This is not the whole government.
Not the whole government?
Like in this country.
Well, Netanyahu is a convicted, he's a wanted criminal. Ben-Gvir is a convicted terrorist.
People love Trump. People, you understand?
Okay.
If you want to see it with your own eyes,
you want to see genocide with my eyes? We do every day on social media.
There's no genocide there.
Okay, if you're going to deny that, then why get upset with? Why?
I'm not upset.
You're not upset? So you're denying this Holocaust.
I feel sorry for you.
You're denying this Holocaust.
I feel sorry for you.
Okay,
you
so
don't seem like a bad guy.
Okay.
You just seem like you've been regurgitating.
I'm telling you things that are true, and you're saying, "Oh, it's not everybody."
But I'm there. You're not.
No, you're here in America right now.
People who tell me from other states, they tell me, "Oh, New York is so dangerous. Watch out for this." They've never been.
First of all, it also goes to show you whether it is Fuentes or Sneako, the type of people that watch his channel, young, immature men trying to make an impression on who I'm not really sure. But this potato head, man, he's making Sneako seem like the greatest guy ever. He's just giving him points. Yeah, if you ever want to look good, just talk to a Zionist. It'll be very easy to make yourself come off looking really smooth.
Here, don't walk around Times Square. You get mugged. They've never been here. They don't know. You have to see with your own eyes. Nico, I wish you the best of luck. And if you want to, I'll take you there, and I guarantee you nothing will happen to you.
Okay.
I promise you.
Okay.
Maybe he's in the IDF and he already knows that, hey, this one's off limits. We have to make a good impression on him. He's got a very big channel on YouTube. We have to make it so that it looks like we are the most benevolent army in the history of the world.
Good to meet you, bro. And remember, your government's committing a genocide.
That's what you've been told. That's what you've been told.
Okay, then the 6 million, then why do we have to believe that? If you're going to deny this one, then people should be able to deny your Holocaust.
People do deny it.
Then it's 6 million, 6 million, 6 million.
And people do
it's
deny
illegal
it.
in Europe to deny this.
People do deny it. So?
Well, you call them the worst people of all time. You get banned on social media.
So?
You get canceled, you can get arrested. So? That's clearly proof of overwhelming control. This is not fair. You have the Free Palestine. Let's get a Free Palestine.
There never was a
Free Palestine. Free Palestine.
There it is. There it is. Here it is.
Get canceled, you can get arrested. So? That's clearly proof of overwhelming control. This is not fair. You have the Free Palestine. Let's get a Free Palestine.
There never was a
Free Palestine.
There never was a Palestine, and there it is. And that's all you need to know. There never was a Palestine. Remember Jerry Seinfeld after the NBA Finals game between the Knicks and the Spurs? Jerry, can we get a free Palestine? It doesn't exist. They really believe this. Sick.
Free Palestine. 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 And look, we kicked them out of this land the same way they kicked the Palestinians out of that land. Walk away.
Great job, Sneako. Got to give it to you. I've never covered you before, but this one was worth it. And it was worth it not because of what you were saying, but because of what he was saying and what they always say, how they make it so easy. Like I said, and this gets back to what everybody has been surmising is the talking point that is always going to be universally used by all of the Zionists. Why don't you talk about North Korea? Why don't you talk about Sudan, Congo, Ukraine, Syria, etc., etc., etc.? Because they don't control our country the way that you do. As I said, we can't police the world and we shouldn't. We should have diplomatic relations with as many people as we can around the world if it is at all possible. With that being said, the revolution in the United States, part and parcel, is to dismantle this unholy alliance with the likes of people like this jolly Saint potato head of a man. That's our job. What they do after the relationship is severed, that's on them, not our problem. And if they end up as a black hole in the desert, that's their problem, not ours. We cannot and must not forget that for all the things that we want to cover and do, there are a lot of good people out there who are fighting back and will continue to fight back. So we're not alone. Every day that passes is another day that somebody else finds the courage to speak up against the Zionist state. And I also want to remind people that if there is another person who has been doing a really great job, who I happen to like him. I think Theo Vaughn has really done himself a great job. He really has. Because he recognizes the mistakes that he made. And he sat down, because again, Theo was from Louisiana, and he sat down for a conversation with Senator John Kennedy, who was from Louisiana. Now, I believe in covering this because I actually sat in the Senate chambers, and I was very close to Senator Kennedy when he made his abhorrent speech about supporting the war in Iran. This was right before it started. Listening to him defend going to war in Iran, which of course was everything to do with Israel. And so why he decided to sit down with Theo Vaughn is beyond me. But listen carefully to what Senator Kennedy says here.
That America will support like a pro-Israel candidate like in the next election? Like Trump has been pretty pro-Israel overall. Do you think that will affect how they vote in the next election?
Yeah, it's going to be a big issue. My Democratic friends, not all of them, but the wing of the what I call the loon wing of the Democratic Party that's in control, they hate Israel. And they support, they say they support the Palestinians.
Well, they hate the government, not the people, right?
No,
right. We're talking about the government.
I don't want to believe they hate the people.
Okay, yeah.
But they hate that's fair. That's a good point. They hate the government.
Yeah, and that points across the board in this conversation.
That's a fair point. But they support Hamas. I mean, I'm sorry, they just do.
One person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. Now, if Kennedy knew jack shit about anything, which he doesn't, he's a total, again, I don't like to stereotype. But this is what happens when you elect a shit kicker into power. Listening to him talk about supporting, again, anybody who not only supports the state of Israel, but supports war in Iran, whether he was doing it because he wanted to impress Trump, whatever the fucking reason it is, John Kennedy never did jack shit. It's still an insult that that's his name, but whatever. His parents probably had more semblance of what it meant to be an American than he could ever imagine.
That's why I call him loon wing of the party. And that will be a big issue within the Democratic primaries. But there are a lot of Republicans that think we're too close to Israel.
You're damn right we do. This is not an issue that you can win. And this is also why, you see, Louisiana, ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't know, is actually a very unique state. Louisiana is one of 4 states: Washington, California, Maine, and Louisiana have the jungle primary system. Louisiana is a state tailor-made for an independent to run for the U.S. Senate. Almost like a Shama Sawant type situation. Louisiana's politics is completely controlled by the Republican Party, but it is a jungle primary. And there's a lot of things that can happen if you put your mind to trying to control it. And my understanding is that Louisiana is one of the most corrupt states in the country. Some say it's the most corrupt. Well, when you have a senator like this, you can understand why.
Well, I mean, it's just that's what's so interesting about
Tucker's one.
Well, Tucker's saying that because Tucker has one of the top 10 podcasts and platforms in America.
Yeah.
So for that to be his direction and that to be how he feels.
And he really believes that.
Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people feel exactly like he does, you know? So that's why I'm wondering, do you think like an Israel first politician could win?
Could win, could lose. Look, this is a big, wide open, diverse country.
Yeah.
For both Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah.
And in our country, you can believe what you want and say what you think. And I support this dialectic of ideas where ideas compete.
Yeah.
You see, Mr. Kennedy, if that is how you truly feel, why don't you ask the citizens of the state of Louisiana, which is one of the 5 poorest states in the nation, how they feel about you supporting billions upon billions of dollars being spent in places other than their state that desperately needs it. I've been to Louisiana a few times. Now, that is a state. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't been to Louisiana and you haven't driven the causeway to New Orleans. Hurricane Katrina was 2005, 21 years ago. There is still damage all along that highway to various buildings that have never been dealt with in over 2 decades. I think that's a big problem. And this senator, who could have done God knows how much good for the state if he was willing to bring that money back to improving infrastructure projects in the state. But nope. He's a corrupt bastard like pretty much everybody else in that state. And it's a damn shame. And that's the side that doesn't get talked about enough.
Support this dialectic of ideas where ideas compete.
Yeah, that has to have it.
Yep. And that's why.
Dissect, if you're in that chat, spam it again. You're out of the chat. Don't do it. I'm giving the warning. Do it again, kick them out.
God made elections. But I want people to, and my people in Louisiana, but people in America to know where I stand.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of admiration for Israel.
Why? Why? Why do you have an admiration for Israel? You shit-kicking asshole. What is there to admire? If you were, and again, I'm not using this as an excuse. It's not an excuse. But let's for a moment just surmise. If he was a congressional representative in Silicon Valley or the northern Chicago suburbs or Long Island, Peter King, New York's 2nd District, if you remember him, or dare I say even little Jared Moskowitz in District 25, which covers Boca Raton to Miami Beach along A1A. I can at least understand somebody giving the excuse that they support the state of Israel. You are a senator from one of the poorest, most desperate states in the country, and you have neglected your people like nobody's fucking business. You're a great admirer of Israel? I wonder how the people in Louisiana feel about you. Heck, as far as I'm concerned, why doesn't Theo Vaughn run against him for Senate? At this point, we might as well take anything we can get. Shame on this man.
Tough. They're tough as a boot. They fight back to against people that try to kill them.
Yeah.
No. They use our money to fortify their positions in their part of the world that they do not belong in. How many Americans have had to suffer because of this unholy alliance that we've had for far too long? How many people have had to die? How many people have been impoverished? We cannot and must not ignore this reality of what this unholy alliance has created. It has created an absolute nightmare. And it's created this nightmare because of representatives like this man. Now, I'm not saying that Senator Kennedy is the end-all be-all to our problems. But he is a huge part of this because of where he represents and the neglect that comes from that. John Kennedy's a very powerful senator. There is a lot he could be doing for his state if he wanted to, but he doesn't do it because he doesn't give a shit. And the sooner people realize that they don't care, that their motivation is wealth and power and nothing else. I appreciate Theo having him on because you can see the depths of how much they're willing to sink. This is a situation where you cannot ignore just how dreadfully evil this Southern charm of a cracker can possibly be. This is kind of like the invert. It is the equivalent. John Kennedy, because he is a doting, friendly man, is the equivalent of Cory Booker in the Democratic Party. They do the same horrific genocidal shit, but because they're gentlemen, they're able to get away with it. People don't call them out because they don't act like jerk-offs. It's a lot easier to get away with it when you're acting in a gentlemanly fashion. Decorum is everything for far too many people. We have an obligation to speak up. I don't know enough about Louisiana politics to know if there is an independent option that would make sense. But this is our fight in many ways. As I said, elections are not going to solve our problem, but it doesn't mean that they don't matter. The fight is going to get so much more arduous. No, he's not. My dad is walking on the street. And today, every day, I ask, how much more can we take? How much more pain and suffering can we handle? I don't know. Neither do you. But I'm here for it. And so are all of you. Yeah, I've been getting William Dafoe a lot as well. What is this? Everybody's trying to figure out what celebrity I look like or who I am. I'm just Peter Hager. That's me. Who is Max Zorin? I don't know who that is. So, here we are. But let's have a little fun. Because you know, on our channel, We always like to highlight so much of what's going on. Yes, you've got it. You're coming all wrong. You got the wrong tone. Tonight, every night, we fight harder, more direct. I don't know if you're trying to be funny, Kenman, but George Clooney and I share a birthday. May 6th. We're both Tauruses. Max Zorin in A View to a Kill. Okay, so that's the first Timothy Dalton movie. Reminded me of the motherfucker at work who tried to have me fired for 3 years, Christopher what? Oh, right. Yes, okay. Yeah, so Walken plays the villain. You think I look like him? All right. I want to hear what the ladies have to say. Who do you think I remind you of? For a white guy, I can dance. I can hold my own. Okay, so Max Zorin is who Walken plays in A View to a Kill. Okay, that's good to know. I haven't seen it, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't see it. And I do like Walken. Walken everywhere. He's great. I got to practice a little harder. Some days I have it, others I don't. Tonight, I wasn't prepared, but I did the best I could. It's the 4th important day for all of us. So yeah, I have to have it. Maddie, I never thought I did either. But he is a handsome fella. And we do have the same birthdays, so that's got to count for something. Thank you. Thank you, love. I appreciate it. Walken is, I don't know who Robert Nepper is. Somebody help me out with that one as well. Now, if you look at Buscemi in the early 80s when he was a firefighter, there is a picture of him in his firefighter uniform where it does look like me. So if perhaps somebody had initially thought that Buscemi, well, thank you, Benny. That's very lovely of you to say. No, like I said, with Clooney, you know, we share a birthday, and I respect his confidence, his charisma. He's got a lot of it. He's dated some amazingly beautiful women over the years, and his wife is not only beautiful, but an exceptional human. Tip of the hat. What can you say? I still haven't seen Syriana, which my understanding is that it's a pretty good movie. He won the Oscar, Best Supporting Acting Oscar for it. Probably worth a look. I remember that one. Look, Walken is pretty much great in everything that he's done. Now, if anybody has seen True Romance and the scene between Walken and Dennis Hopper, never leave the cave without it. I have still, and on that note, we continue. Thank you very much. And thank you, Chuck. I heard that it wasn't that good of a film. So, do we have anything to be excited about? Well, listen, we can't all look like the greatest man who ever lived, the most handsome man, total devil. The ladies love him, really love him. They love him a lot, totally. Have you seen the lady that apparently has been like his liaison for the longest time? I guess she's like in her early 30s, claiming that she's in love with Trump. Let me tell you what she's in love with. She's in love with the idea that she can make such an impression that she gets included in his will. That's basically what she's hoping for, at least I think. I can't really think of any other. Nobody's a bigger sellout than DJ Khaled, Liberty, but I'll get to that later. So we're going to conclude tonight, where we often do, highlighting exactly why we have to keep fighting this fight. There is some good out there, and there are people who understand that we have to keep sticking it to the Zionists every chance we get, whether at home or abroad, because abroad, we're dealing with a really big crisis.
Never thought I would see this day. Israeli soldiers are in Venezuela. They're actually in a hotel called Lido Hotel in Chacao in Caracas, not far away from where my house is. Unbelievable. They supposedly came to save Venezuelans, to rescue them from under the rubble, when they actually block the rescue of Palestinians that they bomb. This is not the only unbelievable thing happening. The Venezuelan government is even thanking them for being there. I posted a video a few days ago talking about this, warning that this might happen, and Venezuelans came to the comment section and showed their total rejection of Israelis in Venezuela.
And that is the big difference when you think about all of the money that was invested, whether with Elon, Trump's contingent, all of these people, why this was such a significant issue. Why was it significant? Because Milei, one second, guys. Business never ends, even on the 4th of July. I think I fixed it. Anyway, Milei takes over the country and basically opens up the floodgates for all of the Israelis to migrate there. The citizens don't want them. They know what they're bringing, but the powers that be do, and they're deciding that the Israelis are welcome there. That's why they'll have a place. That's why Argentina is, for all intents and purposes, going to be where they end up going. Yes, I am German. As a matter of fact, my father was born in Germany, and he relocated to South America at the end of World War II. Don't ask me. I don't have the answer. I've heard lots of stories. I can't prove one way or the other, but he ended up in Uruguay. It is what it is. And my dad's mom is Irish.
No los queremos aquí. We don't want you here. This comes 17 years after Venezuela cut all relations with Israel and kicked out all their diplomats from Venezuela, and has been a voice for Palestine. This is a sad moment. Venezuelans, beware. Beware. These are Israeli soldiers who just came from the genocide in Palestine. Fresh.
And it will continue. And they will keep showing up, and they will keep showing out. Unless we do something about it. You think that one was bad? Take a look at this shit. What, I mean, excuse me, what is it about these scumbags? They're such inbreds. It's, I mean, look at the guy. And they're so tough. That's what's so amazing. He really doesn't understand there's going to come a day where they're going to get theirs. They really are. Like their comeuppance it's going to happen. Like it's going to happen. And that is exactly why we are going to see a lot of ups and downs And I do worry about how much more people are going to be willing to take, because when the floodgates open, when the violence comes for these animals, and it will come, some of them are going to get away with it, but a lot of them are not going to. A lot of them are going to get theirs, including guys like this who put themselves on camera.
This is my land.
5 foreign solidarity activists and Palestinian landowners have been injured after being assaulted, after attacked by Israeli settler militias who assaulted them and sprayed them with gas between the towns of Termas Ayaya and Abu Falah, northeast of Ramallah.
I'm here, Lada.
What you have to understand, and this is part of the reason why I've said that I do have a bloodlust, like I know that I do, especially for people like that. You have to understand that if I was physically assaulted, and if I was in a situation where I had no way out, I'm going to take at least one of them with me. I'm going to snap his neck. I understand that their culture doesn't say anything, or people do not say anything regarding this. It is very hard to have patience. It is very hard to see what is happening and then say, okay, oh yeah, like, I do have a violent side. I know I do. And someone would ask me, could I ever be in a position of political authority? My answer is yes, because I'm not afraid to do what is necessary. And in the case of these animals that people call people, we have an obligation for humanity to do what is necessary in many of these cases. Speaking up is only part of the responsibility that we have. There is much more that we have to do, but we're not doing nearly enough. And as you can see here, this lady, I don't remember exactly where this was taking place. It was in Europe. But you'll see what the Zionists do.
Children are being killed.
Yeah.
Tens and thousands
I wonder
of
why.
children are being
I wonder
killed.
why that.
Why are they killing children?
Yeah, and in Iran they're killing. Children too,
so
right?
great.
So just like the numbnuts dickwad who had the conversation with Sneako, trying to convince you that this is well, what about Iran? It's never, oh no, Israel isn't doing anything terrible. It's always, well, what about Iran? And as you can see if we get a good look at this guy. Why do they all look like this? Why are the loudest Zionists always the most nebbish weaklings walking the earth who are always advocating for more genocide? It's because they're emasculated men who do not wear the pants in their relationships. He's so sure of himself.
And children are being killed.
Yeah.
Tens and thousands
I wonder
of
why.
children are being
I wonder why that.
Why are they killing children?
Yeah, and in Iran they're killing. Children
It's
too,
so
right?
great to kill children, right?
I don't wanna write a banger, I wanna reflect the time. Stop business as usual, stop the genocide. It's land back from Philippines to Palestine. It's time to uprise till we're all free. Fuck individualism, this is collective wisdom. No more consumerism, tune into global rhythms. We make the revolution irresistible. Leaning around each other, holding them accountable. They turning humans into robot cops, slaves to empires, brains whitewashed.
You're so stupid.
It's complicated. You don't know what you're talking about. And there's no Palestine. It doesn't exist. Am I right? Larry David is nowhere near Jerry Seinfeld on that issue. He's not good, but he's not Jerry. Let's be fair.
And children are being killed.
Yeah.
Tens and thousands
I wonder
of
why.
children are being
I wonder why that's.
Why are they killing children?
Yeah, and in Iran they're killing. In Iran they're killing children too,
It's so
right?
great to kill children, right?
Well, you know, it's
yeah,
not great to commit war against another country, is it? Yeah, this is what happens in war. Who brought the war on? Think about it.
Who brought the war? Oh my God, bagels and schmears. I'm channeling my friend Rothbone right now. This is like another Holocaust. You're the one executing it on the Palestinians. And they still can't come to terms with the fact that their world is going to crumble. And it is crumbling.
Think
They're
about
killing
it.
tens of thousands of children.
Yeah.
Killing children is never okay, mister. Never.
Never.
Never okay.
It's never okay.
Never okay.
So,
Because
so
killing
you
children
think
is
there's a?
fine, all
Has there
right.
ever been a war? Has there ever been a war where children didn't
No,
die?
this is a genocide. They're aiming for children. There are.
That's where you're
there are-
ignorant.
there
How
are
do you know
witness
that?
statements
How do you
that
know
they are-
that?
They are shooting children in the head and in the heart.
Yeah,
Their snipers
that's
are
because you.
shooting children in the head and in the heart.
That's because you believe everything you
No,
read.
these are American doctors who have put testimony. Yeah, right.
Of the
American doctors have witnessed
330 million American
tens of thousands of children are killed. Killing children is always wrong.
You know, the good news is that while you may have one dickhead that stands out in the crowd, the thing that is so telling is that he's not from Finland. He's not from Northern Europe. He's from the United States. Although he may be from Europe, his ancestors may have come from there. But he's clearly an American, most likely in New York. Well, you could tell by his accent he's from New York. And they're not getting it. They're not getting it. And so here we have final of the evening. And I know Jen is obviously taken off for the night. It did start late, but this is definitely a Zio Hunter conclusion. Now, I may be strong, but I'm not that strong. I'm not like that. Might have to take a little gear in order to get there. This is how all Zionists should be dealt with every time.
What's Sneako?
Huh?
If I could ask.
You know exactly what I'm going to say.
It's Israel?
Palestine.
Oh, Palestine?
Palestine.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The whole of Israel.
No, if you don't like it, you can get the fuck out of my store, too.
No. That's okay.
Get the fuck out of my store. Out of my store.
You thought
now.
it was Israel.
Get out of my store.
This is not your
This is
store.
Palestine. I own
You're-
the store. Get the fuck out. I own the store. Let's go for our couple cops. Let's go.
You're being
Let's go.
recorded that you're throwing me out because I'm Jewish, you know.
And this has always been their argument. It's the same one, tale as old as time. You're throwing me out because I'm a Jew. Let me tell you something, pal. Because so much of this has been a class-based issue for so long, you are going to get starting. You're going to start getting thrown out of places because you are a Jew. Because this is what it's coming to. Your absolute refusal to understand this situation, your absolute refusal to recognize that your protection is going away. And when that guardrail no longer exists and you're looking for support, You know, I often like to say that our podcasts, especially these solo podcasts, always have a full circle moment. Remember what happened at the beginning when Netanyahu let it out of the bag that their freedom is based on bribery. I don't know how many people are going to be willing to take your bribes when the full scope of everything that you've done to the Palestinians, to the Lebanese, the truth behind almost every conflict we've been involved in since World War II, the depths of which we don't fully understand yet, but many are starting to learn. And this Palestinian shop owner is handling it in a way that is almost too nice, too considerate. Should have been worse.
There's going to be a complaint against you.
Go for it.
Okay?
I'm not throwing you out because you're Jewish. I'm throwing you out because you're being a dickhead. You're disgracing my country. This is Palestine.
Why was I disgracing it?
You said, oh, this is Israel, not it's Palestine.
Well, you asked me to guess.
Get out of my store. I don't want to serve you. Get out. And you're a minor. Get out.
I'm not a minor, but okay.
All right, where's your ID then? That's what I thought. Fucking weirdos.
Not important enough to pick a fight with.
I'm richer than all of you fuckers. Here's your fucking payroll, pussy. Get the fuck out of my store.
And the other thing, which unfortunately has been a hallmark of the Zionist cause, and again, this is the Jewish Zionist cause. The Christian Zionist cause is a conscription by the evangelical church to basically tie the book of Revelation to supporting the state of Israel. It's far more evil in that regard because those are people that have a God-fearing complex and they listen to what their pastors say. Otherwise, they believe they're going to burn in hell. With the Jewish Zionists, this is almost exclusively economics. So when he tried to throw a little smart mouth comment towards him as he was walking out the door, that didn't suit well with him. And he's like, I've got more money than you guys. Again, in the end, who cares if you do or not? You're richer than him because of your soul. They have no soul. They don't see people as equals if they're not one of their own. That is the devastating reality of the Zionist cause. The Jewish Zionist cause believes in ethnic, cultural, social superiority. This is like the caste system in India. You should be thankful we're even allowing you to breathe our air. And this is how it is. But they're in for a very rude awakening because, again, here we are on the precipice of a legitimate revolution. And some of these people are going to have to go into hiding. They have no choice. They will not be accepted. They're not going to be flaunting their shit around, that's for sure. And again, it may not happen tomorrow, and it may not happen for a few years, but it's coming, and they know it. And that's why a lot of them are fleeing. That's why a lot of them are trying to take over these other countries. That's why Argentina's in trouble. That's why Colombia is now in trouble. They're going to try to take over all of South America. And that's where Brazil comes in. And this is where a World War III situation could be very real. Because remember, Brazil is in BRICS. Brazil is backed by China and Russia. And you just know that the State Department, the Zionist-controlled State Department, is itching their trigger fingers to go after Brazil. You know it. We all know. Brazil is the fourth most populous country in the world. They have a lot of resources, and they're going to try to do their damn best to get what they think they deserve. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. But in the end, good to see you, Kat. It's been a little while. I love this country. I am proud to be an American, but not for the reasons why some people may be celebrating today. Because I do believe that there is enough in this country where people understand that this is a revolutionary moment and one that could be uniting a lot of different factions in a desperately crucial time in our nation's history. We have passed the expiration date that governments typically last. 250 years, that's about it. If you look back on various empires, British Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Roman Empire, Genghis Khan, the dynasties in China, feudal Japan, what you'll find is that everyone has a shelf life. And inevitably, the shifts will happen. Changes are abound. But we're living in a very unique time. We're living in the technologically advanced age. And we have real fights ahead of us, especially with the tech oligarchs. You think Peter Thiel or Sam Altman gives a damn about humanity? You think Larry Ellison gives a damn about whether or not anybody gets legitimate information anymore? You think Mark Zuckerberg ever did? You think Elon Musk isn't trying to figure out a way off this planet? We know Peter Thiel is at least finding his way to Argentina. Lord knows he would want to be on that special rocket ship to the nether regions of the universe. What the hell's Jeff Bezos going to do when eventually a lot of Amazon employees decide that they don't want to do this anymore? You know, the other thing you have to remember is that most people don't understand or have no concept of how the rich truly live. And I'm talking about the real rich. The people with billions upon billions of dollars to their name. The people that own things that you couldn't even begin to understand. And the fact is, the cabal is very small. It's not big. It's a few, it's probably a couple thousand people. I mean, in retrospect, it is a decent chunk of people, but in reality, they are the ones that are pulling the strings all over the world. And they're beyond drunk with power. The Rothschilds are obviously at the top, but they're not the only ones. And they are perhaps coming to terms with what's coming. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. My theory, they're aware, but they don't think we have it in us to do what's necessary. And that's going to be that's the real fight, is to figure out what are people prepared to do. This is a very important day in our nation's history because a lot of people are looking at today and saying, this isn't a proud day. It's a somber day, if not an outright sad day, because our country and our countrymen and women are finally realizing the depths of where we are. So keep fighting that good fight. Every day that passes is another day that somebody wakes up to the reality of what's in front of us. And the more people that join in the fight, the faster we come out on the other side, hopefully better than we were before. Change is inevitable. Revolution is inevitable. And we should all be here for it. Don't be afraid. Do not go quietly into that good night. Appreciate you all being here tonight. And if you enjoyed it, please consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty, despite heavily suppressed yet still growing channel as we approach 128,000 subscribers. And a big shout out to our super supporters for this evening. Red Amy, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. It's great to see, and I think you stuck around for the entire live stream. You are awesome. Really appreciate you. Libertarian Social Dem with the $4.99. I like Clint Russell and Josie, but their Mises hard right libertarian is a problem because they focus on demographics and immigration, which is alienating. Now, I've said before, I agree, and I do tend to be conservative on immigration, but that's because I believe in protecting labor. And unfortunately, one of the true ideals of right-wing libertarianism is this idea that every man, woman, and child for themselves in a world where a lot of libertarians that think like that come from well-to-do families that already gave them a big leg up on life. So it doesn't make sense. And with the $4.99 one more time, I feel like Tucker, Candace, and MTG are still evolving and sincere about the genocide in Palestine and Muslims, but I never was sold on Megyn, and she proved me right. Megyn Kelly has always been a phony baloney. Always. And the way you know if somebody's a phony baloney is if they're willing to put their money where their mouth is, and of course, Kelly has never done that. And think about the payday that she got from NBC to basically be there for a few months and then ran off with the bag. But when she showed her true colors regarding the citizens of Haiti, well, you want to talk about white supremacy? She threw it out in full display. Jim Talib with the $5. Always great to see you, buddy. Schultze, it's been a while, my friend. Happy birthday, America. $6.99. Appreciate you being here, pal. Nawal Najir with the $9.99. Thank you, Peter and Jen, for all you do. Thank you for your support. Libertarian Social Dem with the $1.99. I used to do IT work for private equity offices. Worst people ever. Oh, I can imagine. The only thing that they seem to understand is the bottom line. Anything else is merely a distraction and in the way of making more money. And $1.99 one more time. Government subsidies and favoritism is a result of private equity. I agree. Just remember, it's a fake economy. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that. Red Amy with the $19.99. You are wonderful. Thank you for all you do in speaking our full throat. Happy to do it. That's why you're here, and I hope you enjoyed it. I can't say that, it's difficult when you're streaming and, you don't know for certain if you're having a good show or not. This was a show that was put together almost patchwork. I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for this. Long story short, I have had a very busy day, like extremely busy past 2 days, to be honest. So I didn't really have a lot of time to prep, but that's why I tend to do a lot of things in advance to make sure that I'm covering the things that I wanted to cover. I wanted to potentially go after Mayim Balak tonight. I didn't have a chance to do it, and the only chance I could do it is when Jen's not here. So that's going to, again, have to wait, but we'll see what happens down the road. Libertarian Social Dem with the $1.99. Again, we need to pay attention to Dan Osborne's Senate race. Yes, I do think that Osborne can win in Nebraska. I believe he's running as an independent, even though he's clearly being backed by the Democrats. But he is definitely a working man's throwback Democrat. Kind of like a William Jennings Bryan, who's also from Nebraska. And finally, Libertarian Social Dem with a $1.99. Who is a bigger sellout, DJ Khaled or Bukele? DJ Khaled, there's no question about it. DJ Khaled is a joke, and he's definitely got a lot of skeletons in his closet that he hopes never comes out, but we hopefully will expose one day. Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. We love you all. We appreciate you all. It is a happy 4th, even if it isn't. And free Palestine. Good night, guys.